So if you constantly seem to feel like you are broke or falling behind financially in life, or like no matter what you do, you just can't seem to save any money, it's most likely for one of two very simple reasons. Either you have an income problem, meaning you simply don't make enough money to pay your bills and cover all of your expenses, so you're always short, or you have a spending problem, which means you just spend way too much money. Or in some cases, it's actually both. The truth is that even if your issue is that your income is too low and you need to find a way to make more money, that's all fine and well, but there are a lot of people who are in that situation and even still spend more money than they should be spending. So if it's not bad enough that they're not making enough and they're already behind, they're putting themselves even further behind because of their spending habits. This can happen for a multitude of reasons. Sometimes it's just straight up a lack of financial literacy. Sometimes it's poor impulse control. Sometimes it's you trying to cheer yourself up to try to deal with the stress that you're under because of the financial situation you're in, which is very much a self-fulfilling problem. However, the fact is that there are some things you can do to change that. I've made several videos on this channel giving you guys tangible ways to save money in your everyday life, ways to save money when you buy groceries, ways to save money when you shop for various things, little tips and tricks, and that's all good on the math side of things, but what it doesn't account for is the emotional side. And the truth is that when it comes to our spending habits, the emotional aspect is just as important, if not more so, than the actual crunching of the numbers. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 kind of weird money saving tricks that are going to help you to reprogram your brain and help you to change the way that you interact with your money on a day-to-day basis. These are things that I personally do in my day-to-day life all the time, and doing these things is exactly how I was able to save $100,000 by the age of 25, which ultimately became the down payment to me buying a home and got me to where I am today. So let's not mess around any longer, let's jump right into the 5 tricks. Weird money saving trick number 1 is to shop with your time, not your money. This is something that I have done my entire life. I found it to be particularly important when I was earning minimum wage, but now even as I've gotten older and as I've started to earn more money, it's something I continue to do, and this is how you really learn to assign monetary value to things. Anytime that I'm thinking of buying something that's at all non-essential, rather than just looking at the price tag and thinking about how many dollars it's going to cost me, what I actually do is take that price and break it down based on my hourly wage. Let's say I'm about to buy something that costs $500 and I make $25 an hour. That means that I would have to work for 20 hours, actually even more than 20 hours when you account for income taxes and other deductions. So let's even say closer to 25 or 30 hours to be able to afford this item. And when I look at it like that, it often becomes unappealing to me. I would look at each potential purchase and ask myself, would I rather put in X amount of hours at work to afford this, or would I rather have that time off? And if you're in a situation where you're already tight for money, simply saying, okay, fine, yeah, I'd be willing to work for this is not sufficient, because unless you have the opportunity to actually earn overtime and pay for that extra purchase, saying that you would be okay with it is kind of moot. The real question to ask yourself is, do you even have the opportunity to work the overtime hours to afford this item if you're willing to? And if the answer is no, I think it kind of explains itself at that point, doesn't it? As effective as this trick can be for large purchases, I would make the argument that it's even more effective and more important when it comes to small purchases, because those are often the ones we don't think too much about and they can add up really quickly. If you're making $15 an hour and you're thinking about hitting the Starbucks drive-thru, consider the fact that after taxes and deductions are taken off, you basically have to work for almost a full hour to afford that 1 cup of coffee. And when you put it like that, you may not even want it that badly. Money saving trick number 2 is to be unfaithful. And I know how strange that sounds, so let me explain. It is very much within human nature to stay in our comfort zones and to stick with the status quo. But there are certain times where it just doesn't make sense, and we wind up getting swindled in a way we don't even recognize. Last year, when I got my house and car insurance renewals in the mail, my jaw almost hit the floor when I realized how much they had increased my premiums, despite the fact that I had no claims.
$900 dues!
I had been with that insurance company since I had started driving, so more than 10 years, and up to that point I was getting what I thought was a decent deal, but when I recognized that it was going up and up and up and up, I decided it was time to make a change. After looking around online for a little bit, I was able to find another insurance company who was offering me the exact same coverage for way less money, and so by making one quick phone call, I was able to save myself several $1,000s over the span of a year. I also did the same thing with my phone bill. I'd been with the same wireless company since basically high school, but over the years, my bills just continued to get higher and higher and higher until I'd had enough. So I looked around online, I compared rates, and by switching from one company to the other, I was able to save myself about 25% off my bill, while once again getting the same level of service. Even still, I'm paying way more than I should be because I live in Canada and that's just how it goes here. Our wireless plans are awful and we don't have a lot of options. But you guys in the States, you have no excuses to be overpaying because you have options like today's video partner, Mint Mobile. You've probably already heard of Mint Mobile or seen the Ryan Reynolds commercials, but if for some reason you haven't switched yet, now is the time. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data because they're built on the nation's largest 5G network. All plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. There's no catch here. They just save money by selling directly to you online instead of having physical locations, and then they pass that savings right on to you. Switching to Mint is quick and easy. You can sign up and do the activation fully online in about 15 minutes, but if you do need any help, they have awesome customer service available. Mint Mobile's prices are always affordable, but right now they're running a limited time deal where you can get their unlimited plan, which is usually $30 a month, for just $15 a month. That's 15 minutes to pay $15 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. It's an absolute no-brainer. Why would you pay more than you have to? To get started, head over to trymintmobile.com/accordingtonicole or click the link in the description box down below. Thank you very much to Mint Mobile for partnering with me on this video. Money saving trick number 3 is one of my absolute favorites because yes, it's a little bit weird and a little bit out there, but it is probably one of the most effective things you can do to help you save money, and that is to buy everything twice. Wait, what? What I mean is that anytime you buy something non-essential, take that same dollar amount and transfer it into your savings. That means if you're spending $20 on something right now, it's actually going to cost you $40. You're going to spend $20 and you're going to save $20. If you're buying something that's $100, it's going to cost you $200 because you're going to spend that $100 and you're going to save another $100. And if you can't afford to do that, you probably can't afford to buy the item. The fact is that if you're spending money on non-essentials, you should be doing so because you can truly afford to. And if you can truly afford to, then putting aside the equivalent amount of money shouldn't be a burden on you. And if it is, probably time to reevaluate your spending habits, I'm just saying. The best part about this trick is that not only does it help you to reevaluate your idea of affordability or help you to assess your perceived value of a given purchase, but it actually helps you to build up a nice nest egg when you do make purchases. Every $20, $50, $100 that you spend and therefore save to the side will build up faster than you expect with very little effort on your part. And before you know it, you have a nice little savings account set aside for a rainy day or for something important, and you haven't even really had to make an effort to do it. Tip number 4 is less of a trick than it is really just a mindset shift, but it's such an important one, and it is to know your why. If you have a very specific set in mind idea of why you're saving money, something you're trying to accomplish or save money towards, it'll give you so much more motivation to want to do it. The ambiguous goal of I'm just trying to spend less money or I'm trying to save more money is kind of not really good enough. It gives you too much room for error and too many opportunities to make exceptions. But if you have a very specific goal in mind and it allows you to focus in on that and become tunnel vision, you'll get there so much faster because you'll actually want to. That goal can be anything from saving up enough money to give you a cushion to quit a job that you hate, to trying to pay off your debt, or trying to save for a down payment on a home, or trying to save up for a vacation. Really, it can be anything. But if you have something specific behind you, putting a fire to your ass and motivating you to do what you have to do, it'll become much easier to do what you have to do. When I was in my late teens and early 20s, I made the decision that I wanted to buy a house. And that was a very lofty goal for somebody like me because I was earning basically minimum wage. I had no assets, I had no career aspirations. I had no idea how I was going to do that, but I knew that the first step was just to save up as much money as I could for a down payment. And I set the goal at $100,000. And with that goal in mind, nothing else to me was important. It became very easy for me to save money because all I wanted more than anything in the world was to own a house. The idea of squandering that goal or even just delaying it over something silly like going out to an expensive dinner or buying coffee out or buying unnecessarily expensive designer clothing, none of that was appealing to me because I would have traded all of that stuff in a heartbeat to have a house. And so knowing that, I was able to just keep my head down and save as much money as I physically could. And by the age of 25, I somehow managed to accomplish it. I know for a fact that had I not had that bigger idea in mind, it would have been really easy for me just to make exception after exception after exception. If my goal was just to save money vaguely, it would have been really easy to be like, okay, well, I saved a little bit, I'm gonna go spend the rest. But because I had something important in mind and I knew my why, it was very hard for me to separate myself from my money for any unnecessary reason at all. Money saving trick number 5 is to gamify your savings. And if you're somebody who feels restricted by the idea of saving money, if you feel like trying to save money forces you to miss out on the things in life you enjoy, this trick is for you. What I want you to do is to grab a piece of paper or open the Notes app on your phone and write down a list of milestones, financial milestones you want to hit when it comes to your savings. You can start small, you can start at $1,000, maybe then it's $10,000, maybe then $25,000 or $50,000, maybe finally $100,000. Then calculate what 1% of each of those numbers are. So if your first goal is $1,000, 1% of $1,000 is $10. 1% of $25,000 is $250. And then looking at those 1% calculations, I want you to think about something at each of those price points that is appealing to you, something you want. So something that's $10, something that's $100, something that's $250, something that's $1,000. And I want you to write down beside each of those numbers what that thing is. These are going to be the prizes that you win when you hit these milestones, the rewards that you allow yourself to indulge in. And because they only account for 1% of your savings, you can do so guilt-free. If you can save $1,000, go ahead and buy yourself a $10 treat. If you can save $10,000, go ahead and buy yourself a $100 treat. Hell, if you can save $100,000, take $1,000 and go do something fun with it because you've earned it. And I encourage you to be as frivolous as you possibly can be. Even in the $10 bracket, that may not seem like a lot of money, but think about something that's $10 that you would enjoy but you typically wouldn't splurge on, and go ahead and set that as the goal you're going to splurge on. By setting these milestones and these goals, it's going to incentivize you to know that, hey, when I get to this point, I'm going to be able to have this. And when I get to this point, I'm going to be able to do this. By setting those milestones, it'll gamify the entire experience for you and motivate you to keep on top of your goals because you're going to be able to treat yourself along the way. When you save $1,000, you might take $10 and treat yourself to a fancy coffee and a cookie. Not a big deal, but it's a nice thing to have. When you hit $25,000, you're gonna take that $250 and completely treat yourself. You might go out for an expensive dinner. You might go ahead and buy those shoes or those jeans or that jacket you've been looking at forever and can't justify, because now you can justify it, you've done well, and you can afford it. Our monkey brains thrive on positive reinforcement, so go ahead and positively reinforce yourself for a job well done. And finally, trick number 6 is the most extreme one of all, and it's for those of us who seem to always have money burning a hole in your pocket. You get your money and you just can't seem to stop spending it. Somehow you get paid, and within a day or 2 days or a week, it's gone. You don't have a dollar left to show to your name. And that is to lock your money away. You can do this in a multitude of different ways. You can buy a GIC, is what we call it here, guaranteed investment certificate. I think in America you guys call it a CD. Basically a locked in investment where your money's inaccessible to you for a number of months or a number of years, depending on what you sign up for. You could also use a high interest savings account and then just cut up the debit card that's associated with it so you physically can't spend that money. Or better yet, if you don't have any short-term plans for that money, just put it in the stock market, buy some index funds, and leave it alone. And now that money is not yours to touch, and it's just gonna sit there and continue to compound over time. If your paycheck gets deposited into your checking account and then just like that, it's gone, you have to change your strategy. That's all you can do. So take some money, set it aside, and put it somewhere where you physically cannot touch it, you cannot get to it. Add as much friction as possible between you and that money. And if you do that often enough, you'll stop thinking about it. You'll just realize that it's not there, it's not accessible to you, and you'll start saving it without even having to think about it. I'm very curious to know if any of you guys are already doing any of these things, or if you have any other interesting tips or tricks you can add to the list. So drop me a comment down below and let me know what your most interesting, ingenuitive method is to save money. If you enjoyed this video at all, if you found it helpful, valuable, entertaining, educational, anything like that, please go ahead, hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It really does help out the channel. Hit the notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram at according_to_Nicole. You can check me out on Patreon for additional content at patreon.com/accordingtonicole. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. I do really genuinely appreciate it. Take care, and I will see you next week.